Well, hi everybody, my name is Robert and I'm with Shameless Care, and today I'm going to tell you that 5% of sexually active young women in the United States today have chlamydia. I didn't say had, H-A-D, I said have. And interestingly enough, 70% of them have no idea that they have it because chlamydia, like most bacterial STIs, are usually asymptomatic. But don't fret because there's a tool that can really change public health in the positive direction, and we're going to talk about it right now. Now, this study that showed that 5% of sexually active young women have chlamydia only tested their genitals. Now, with gonorrhea and chlamydia, it can be in your throat, it can be in your genitals, it can be in your anus, whichever part of your body you have sex with, that needs to be tested with a swab, or in the case of genitals, with a urine test. So they only test the genitals of these women. But do you think any of these women have had unprotected oral sex? Of course they have. And had they tested their throat as well, do you think that number would have been higher than 5%? Probably. And that is one of the reasons why these STIs spread as easily as they do, is because they do spread by oral sex. They can live in your throat. And most of the time when people go to the doctor and say, give me an STI test for everything, the throat isn't checked. And so they leave there with a potentially negative gonorrhea and chlamydia on their test results, but in fact they do have that infection and they spread it to other people. Really crazy stuff. And this is why condoms often have limited success at defeating something like chlamydia, is because the way that people have sex in the real world, a lot of people have unprotected oral sex. By the time that condom even makes an appearance into that sexual situation, there have already been plenty of opportunities for something like chlamydia to spread. But enough about the doom and gloom. Let's talk about something that is just crushing chlamydia across the country. And it is something that a lot of people who are sexually responsible are using, and that's called doxypep. Now, doxypep is the antibiotic doxycycline, which has been around for decades. Many of you have potentially used it in your teenage years for something like acne. It's been prescribed for a litany of things for a long time. And what you do is, under the care of a physician and with a prescription for doxypep, you take 200 milligrams of doxycycline within 72 hours of sex, and it dramatically lessens the likelihood that you will have contracted gonorrhea, chlamydia, and syphilis from that sexual experience. So again, you take it after sex and only when you have sex, unprotected sex, including oral sex, with someone that you're not intimately familiar with, like your primary partner, your husband, your wife, something like that. Now, every clinical trial has showed slightly different results, but with chlamydia, they've been wildly consistent with about an 80% reduction in people getting chlamydia. So imagine that. You have sex with someone who may or may not have chlamydia. You don't know. You take this relatively, super cheap, safe antibiotic, just a single dose, not going to impact your digestion or anything like that, and boom, your likelihood of contracting chlamydia drops by 80%. Super exciting news. Now, you may have heard that doxypep is not effective in women. That seemed to make the news in a way that doesn't make a tremendous amount of sense. Like all medical studies, doxypep studies have primarily focused on men, in particular men who have sex with men. There have only been 2 studies that focused on women, and the one that almost everybody has heard of was utilizing some folks in Kenya. And what they found was that there was no statistical significance between the doxypep group and the group that was not taking doxypep. But unfortunately, when they looked at hair samples of the women after the study, most of the women who were taking doxypep hadn't actually taken it at all. So that would have been the biggest scientific breakthrough in human history if just lying about taking doxypep lowered your risk of STIs, but in fact you have to take it. And that was shown in a study in Japan that was released in this past year that showed a huge decrease in bacterial STIs amongst cisgendered female sex workers in Japan who were using doxycycline as an STI preventative. And best news of all is that those women in Japan saw no increases in UTIs and no increases in BV. In fact, doxycycline, generally speaking, doesn't impact a woman's vaginal health at all, except reducing STIs. Now at Shameless Care, we have a team of board-certified physicians that prescribe and ship doxypep every single day. That is one of our biggest sellers by far, as more and more people take control of their sexual health with this really inexpensive and highly effective way of taking this medication. And it only takes about 5 minutes. You go to shamelesscare.com, you fill out a brief medical form, and a few days later, a year's supply of DoxyPep is in your mailbox and ready for you to use in the same way that you use a condom or any other safe sex tool. It's really cool. Now, it's 2024. What a time to be alive. HIV has more or less become a manageable chronic disease with the tools that we have in place. PrEP has made HIV transmission much lower. It's like the 1960s and free love all over again, except even better, because now we have a tool that significantly lowers your risk of even the bacterial STIs, which, believe me, were rampant in the 1960s, like gonorrhea and chlamydia. But of course, it's up to you to take control of your sexual health and ask yourself if DoxyPep makes sense for you or not. I'm Robert with Shameless Care. Thank you so much for watching.